Hey everybody, Tour Guide Amber here, and today I'm going to talk to you about time management tips in college. I'm sure everybody could benefit from this chat, so here we go. So, time management is one of those things, unfortunately, that everybody says they're going to make a priority, but next thing you know, it's Sunday night, you have 2 exams and 3 papers due the next day, but instead of acknowledging any of those tasks, you have been binge watching Netflix for the last 6 hours. Sound relatable? It is for me, for sure. Definitely not my finest moment. Everybody's been there, but time management is extremely important to be successful in college, and I've recently come to terms with my extreme type A personality, and so now everybody I know looks to me as the girl who always has everything in place, always has everything scheduled out, is ahead of the game, on top of everything. If only they knew what it looked like inside my head, but I guess I put on a good show because here I am today talking to you about how to stay on top of everything and avoid procrastinating in college. So, hopefully something that I say today is useful for you to take away, and you can make the most of my advice as a college student. So, tip number 1, hands down, undoubtedly, the foundation of all time management skills is going to be to have some sort of planner or agenda. Now, this can be a physical planner if you're a tactile person like I am, or if you prefer to have a Google Calendar on your phone or use your Apple Calendar on your iPhone. Whatever works for you is totally cool, but at one point or another, every college student comes to terms with the fact that it really is essential to have a planner that has all of your appointments, tasks, responsibilities, and assignments all in one place. My planner is my pride and joy. I used to bullet journal, and my bullet journaling was my planner, but I came to realize that I took probably 3 times more time to bullet journal and write down what I had to do than actually do the things that I wrote down in my bullet journal, so I was really just kind of shooting myself in the foot. But this is my planner. It's definitely larger. That's one thing that's fun about planning and having an agenda is that you can really customize it and make it your own. I take so much pride in this. So yes, so completely up to you how you go about that. And like I said, some people have it as simple as a Google Calendar. That actually might be better because all of it is virtual. You can set reminders. Like I said, completely up to you how you want to go about having that planner or an agenda available to you. So tip number 2 is going to be color coding is everything. So personally, if you are a tactile person like me, I actually have a certain color for each of my classes each semester. And then I also have a color for each of my jobs because I have 5 jobs because I hate myself, obviously. So each of my responsibilities does have a certain color. So not only do I write those into my schedule in that designated color, but I also write the assignments and the homework assignments and the tasks that I have for each of those responsibilities written in that same respective color on the to-do column of my planner. So as you can see, these are the color coding. These are like my professor's list, so I have each class written in the right color. And then if I flip to an actual day in my planner, don't let this scare you, but this was finals week, and so you can see how many assignments I had during finals week in the respective colors. It does look intimidating, but it's beautiful, and it makes me more excited to cross those items off my list once I complete them, so it's a little bit of an incentive as well. But even if you do have like the virtual Google Calendar or you're using the iPhone calendar, you can color coordinate those as well. But yes, color coordinating is definitely key because it will add an extra layer to your organization. Okay, so tip number 3 is going to be to make several different lists. I like to categorize my lists in 2 different ways. I like to do based on urgency and then also based off of like category. So if I have a bunch of different stuff going on, if it's particularly during the semester and I have a lot of school assignments, I'm going to have one list that's going to be all of my school assignments, and then if I have a bunch of other things to do, like adulting, like paying bills or running errands, I'll usually put those on a separate list. That way I am not getting too discombobulated between all of the tasks that I have to do. I like to keep them isolated from each other, and it kind of just doesn't look as overwhelming. And then I also like to do based off of urgency. So for example, if it's like 3 weeks before final exams, I know that those are coming up and I acknowledge that. So at a later point in time, on my like later list, I'm going to put study for final exams for each of those classes. But I probably do have a few papers that are due prior to those exams in the same classes. So on a separate list, I will have write the paper for this class and basically do like a timeline and basically make lists on a week-by-week basis with my master list also existing, which is the less urgent list. So if that makes any sense, it might be easier if I just show you. So as you can see, this is my list for the week. A lot of little tiny assignments, like watch videos. And then this was my second list that was not as urgent and it was sort of a long-term list. That way I can just be aware and cognitive of what's coming up, but not necessarily worry about it at that moment. So if I haven't already made this clear already, the next tip is going to be to plan ahead, have an idea and be aware of what's in the future, and sort of plan those items out prior to those days occurring. That way you aren't shocked or surprised by anything that's on your list. For example, if you know that you have to go to, let's say the DMV. I don't know, this is a bad example, but let's say you have to go to the DMV. You wrote it down, but you completely forgot about it until you flip to that day in your planner or your calendar. Now I realize that I have all these other things to do and I can't fit this into my schedule this day. It's important to just be cognizant of what is going to happen in the future. So knowing and reminding yourself by looking at that list that you are going to have to go to the DMV, so then you can maybe just plan around it. And so just planning ahead, even if it's the night before. There's nothing I dislike more than waking up in the morning and not knowing what I'm doing with my day. So the night before even, I always like to just glance over my agenda and just see what is on my to-do list for the next day. That way I can mentally prepare myself for what those tasks and assignments are. My next tip is time frames. So I'm not saying that you have to get out a calendar of a timeline of the day and have each hour marked down. Not gonna say I haven't done that, because I have, but I am saying that it is important to just be cognizant once again of your time and what you're doing. So for example, if you have to write some emails, you might think that might just take 30 minutes, but let's say it takes you actually an hour. Well, then you're going to be 30 minutes delayed on all the other things you have to do that day, and some other things might be a little bit more urgent. So just kind of set boundaries for yourself in terms of how much time you're going to spend on a certain task. That way you're not spending too much time on one thing and then not being able to get to other things on your list. Tip number 6, a very important tip, is going to be to learn when to say no. This is something that I still really struggle with because I love to just help everybody as much as I possibly can. I am definitely guilty when it comes to putting my hands in different baskets and not knowing when to draw the line and just know that I've reached my maximum capacity of obligations. My friend actually told me a quote last year and learned to kind of repeat it to myself when I realized that I am spreading myself too thin. And that is, you can't set yourself on fire to keep others warm. And so while it is great and it's important to be a team member and to always want to be a go-getter and help everybody as much as you possibly can, you just have to make sure that you are also making sure that you're prioritizing yourself and getting what you need to get done first. Saying no is oftentimes the more responsible thing to do, and in doing so, you will not only give yourself a break, but you're also being honest with yourself and the person that you are saying no to. And most of the time, they should respect that. So that really covers it for the individual tips that I have, but I do have a few final notes that I wanted to mention prior to ending this video. Sorry, this chair is very squeaky. First is going to be to reward yourself. While you're in college, there's a lot of expectations set on you. You have a lot of different tasks, and if you are taking on different internships and jobs, that could be even more stressful. So it is important to recognize when you have excelled and flourished in whatever you're doing and whatever you're associating yourself with, and to reward yourself for it. Another one is going to be that all-nighters are not your friend. Of course, understandable if it comes down to the wire. I have been there more times than I'd like to say, but it is not necessarily a practice that you want to adopt regularly, because it certainly will begin to take a toll on your mental health, which of course is the number one priority at the end of the day. And it's really important to make sure that you're getting your sleep and living a healthy lifestyle in college. And so just make sure that you are taking care of yourself. Maybe practice some of the other tips I mentioned. That way you can avoid pulling all-nighters on a regular basis. And then the last one is going to be don't forget self-care. So this has sort of been intertwined in a few of the different things that I've already mentioned, but self-care is absolutely essential in college. Check out my self-care tips and college video, because I did one of those as well. However, self-care, like I said, bottom line, something that I'm still working on, still something that I definitely need to incorporate more in my day-to-day routine. So just make sure that you're at your best and tip-top shape all the time by taking care of yourself, making yourself a priority before you go and extend yourself to others and other obligations. Well, thank you so much for listening to my time management tips in college video. Like I said, time management is definitely a really hard thing to make a priority. Speaking from experience, it is definitely not easy. But as a college student, and honestly as an adult in any career field, time management really is an important strategy, so mastering it early on can be very useful. And honestly, by just using 1 or 2 of these tips that I've mentioned, you'll be surprised by how much time it'll free up in your schedule, and you'll have more time for that self-care. So yes, thank you so much for listening. I hope you have an amazing day, and best of luck.